Hi everyone. I'm just going to share this story by voice instead of typing it out because maybe too much to type. Today, Caden and I went for a walk with Mango, and instead of just going around here, we thought we would go around Beavermead Park, which is right on Little Lake. And Little Lake is partially frozen over. In some parts of Little Lake, people are out on the ice, although they probably shouldn't be. Anyway, so we were walking on another part of near another part of Little Lake, close to the volleyball courts where Aisha has beach volleyball. And basically we were walking, somewhat near the beach. And as we passed the beach a little further, Mango was off leash. We were letting her run free because there were so few people there. We only saw 2 other people. And this was our mistake because Mango caught sight of about 1,000 ducks hanging out on the ice. And so Mango decided to take off, despite Caden and I yelling at her at the top of our lungs to stop and etc. So she took off at full tilt straight towards the ducks, and then it became like a bad dream because there was no way for her to stop, and the ice eventually became water. So she slid out right off the ice and into the water and immediately turned around and tried to get back up onto the ice. But as most of you know, it's just about impossible to do so. She basically was there. I would say it was almost, it's hard to say the time, but maybe almost 10 minutes. And Caden and I, in the meantime, were frantically trying to figure out a way to help her out. After a few minutes, I realized we couldn't go out on the ice without us falling through. So I had to tell Caden that she might die. It was pretty horrible. She started whimpering, and the ice it was too slippery. She couldn't get up on it, and it was about 100 feet out. Maybe that's an exaggeration, I'm not sure, but it was about as far as I could throw a ball. Anyway, as we continued to look and think about how can we get her, an Indian man came up to us, and he said, "Here you go." He had grabbed over at the beach, he had found one of those life-saving devices that a lifeguard has. And it had a long rope. And so what I did is I grabbed that disc, or that, it's not really an inner tube, but you know what I mean. And I tried to throw it as hard as I could, but she was just too far out. So I went onto the ice and went about halfway out, and I could tell it was very thin ice, and I threw it again, and it just simply wouldn't get to her. She was still too far out. So I kept going further, and I was at the edge of what I knew the ice would break if I was to go any further. And because it's so far out, it is definitely well above my head. It was too deep for me to stand in, unfortunately. So I threw it to her as I got as close as I could, and sure enough, I was able to get it in the water right beside her. And this was huge hope. Her paw went over the little inner tube thing, and it looked great. The problem was she just couldn't hang on to it properly, and so she would almost get out of the ice. But as her hind legs kind of got caught on the ice as she was trying to get out, she would slip back into the water. And it became a little more desperate because I noticed as she was slipping back in, her head was starting to go under the water. And, I just couldn't bear the thought. It was just horrible. So I did something that is against all logic. I did something dumb. I went on all fours, and even though I could hear the ice cracking, I crawled out to her and I got really close. But just as I neared her, I fell through, and suddenly I was in the water with her. And I had a jacket on still, so in the first few seconds, I wasn't feeling that cold, actually. So I grabbed Mango, and I was able to shove her up on the ice. And instead of taking off back to Caden, she did what we didn't want her to do. She turned around and tried to help me out. Or she tried to hang out with me, which I didn't want because I was trying to grab the ice to get out at this point pretty desperately. It was my first time experiencing being in cold water like that without the ability to get off the ice. So the good news was the tube was still in the water with us, and I was able to grab that and then yell to Caden to start pulling. He's not heavy enough to drag me out of the water, but he was able to give me just enough tug that I was able to get my chest onto the ice again and eventually crawl up out of the water. And by this time I was I was walking back towards the beach, and a lady was there with her cell phone. She was on the phone with the firefighters of Peterborough, and she said, "Do I need to call them here?" And I said, "No, I'm okay." And Mango was okay. We were all out of the water. And I was probably in there no more than 2 minutes, so I was not hypothermic at all. I was definitely soaked, and it's fairly cold, so I was chilly, but I was not in any danger. And Mango was the one who was really teeth chattering. But I think dogs can handle the cold a lot better than humans. That's my impression anyway. Her heart was beating 1,000,000 miles per minute, and somehow I think that helps keep them warm. But what do I know? Anyway, the good news is we made it back safe and sound. I was definitely fairly rattled. We made sure to tell our kids that they could never go and rescue Mango if that were to happen on their own. And anyway, I just wanted to share that story because it's the kind of story that you have to share. I'm really glad everything turned out. Okay, well, have a good night, and here's to the beginning of Christmas holidays. Merry Christmas, everyone.